So I'm gonna share with you some teachings that talk about the cultivation of a healthy intention within us, the development of a habit of a healthy motive, which is then helping us propel towards the good directions in our life. How to develop that inertia, that healthy intention that slowly takes us to the places where we want to go. And making that intention so strong and so powerful that it becomes like an unstoppable willpower. A willpower that can break through any barriers, any obstacles, so you can continue to grow in the direction that you want to head to. So so I'll read, and then I'll add some comments on a chapter called "Work for Work's Sake" by Swami Vivekananda, from some of his talks that he gave in America. So Swamiji, he says, man works with various motives. Man engage in actions through different types of intentions, through different types of motives. There cannot be work without motive. Some people want to get fame and they work for fame. Others want money and they work for money. Others want to have power and they work for power. Others want to get to heaven and they work for that. Others work as a penance. Okay? But Karma Yoga teaches, Vedanta teaches, just work for work's sake, not to get something in return, but just work for the sake of work. Just act for the sake of action, beautiful action that has landed on our laps. It has just come to us. Who knows from where? Every moment some new event comes to us, some new opportunity to respond, to react. Act just for that sake, because it has come to you. Work is worship. Actions can be made as a worship, because whatever has come to you is a grace. It's an opportunity. It's a beautiful opportunity from God. How will we take advantage of it? There are some in every country who are really the salt of the earth. An expression probably from late 1800s. Who work just for work's sake, who do not care for name or fame or even to go to heaven. They work just because good will come out of it. There are others who do good to help mankind, and that is an even higher motive, because they believe in doing good and they love doing good. Okay? So many different opportunities that we have to do an action at every present moment, wherever we are, with all the different things that we can do, with all the different people who we can respond to, the decisions that we make. How to distill, how to filter out all of those choices and select the one that is the highest. See? In our mind, there are thousands of thoughts that are constantly bubbling up for everybody. These thoughts are within us. These thoughts are beautiful. They're also outside of us. And I said in the beginning, the first two. Okay. After I finish the talk, Katya, then we can ask Paulette to repeat. So many thoughts are within the bound of our mind to latch onto, and we notice that when we're around different people, we pick up others' energy. Other people pick up our energy. It is also noted that, I have just speaking to some people who left New York, they traveled to another state, and then they came back to New York, and even without much changes to their life, they feel, oh man, it's so fast here. I can't sit still. It's such a fast-paced energy. So there's something in the atmosphere wherever we are, some kind of vibration that then then produces a different types of inertia in us, a different types of actions and motives within each of us. Okay, now we as humans, we can actually filter through those. The animals cannot do it. I usually talk about this in the classes. The plants cannot do this. Everybody else, whatever their nature is, whatever comes to them, like a reflex, they just respond accordingly. So there's a reflex, and slowly the plant tilts and it grows and it continues goes to the sun. The plant is not going to choose, no, I'm not going to go reach towards the sun. It's just its nature. This is how it's going to go. As long as the opportunity is there, as long as there are certain other trees and leaves that are making the way for it, that's exactly where it's going to go, and that's what it's going to do. And this is part of evolution. Now, with humans, we also have that. We also have our instinct. We also have our reflexes to react in the most optimal way for our system. But then we have something extra. We have the buddhi. So the Sanskrit word is buddhi, which is the faculty of discernment. It's the faculty of discrimination in the heart center, where in addition to the instinct, the reflexes, just the subconscious response, we have the faculty of the heart. We can feel. In addition to just responding, we can also feel the energy. We can feel out of all the different thoughts that we can act upon. We can feel through all of those. And our feeling, our heart, we can choose something that feels better. We can choose something that feels calmer, something that feels holier, a more loving feeling. We can discern between feelings in the environment when something feels good versus something that's not so good, something that feels more open to ourselves and others as opposed to being closed. We can feel our way through. There's in the beginning, Bhagavan, the founder of International Vedanta Society, when he was learning from his gurus, this was like in the 1970s in India, and he was practicing this, and in his own way, he was practicing just listening to God through intuition, through feeling. And he was returning home one time on his bicycle. He was in his 20s, from his guru's house. He was returning home on his bicycle, and there were no lights. He stayed a little too late, and it was time to go home, and it was completely pitch black. He couldn't see anything, and the roads there were just horrendous. There were potholes. You could not see anything. It was a very dangerous situation. But he had to get home. He had to go through. So he was on his bicycle and he decided to trust God. He said, I cannot see anyways. It's going to take me forever to go 1 foot at a time to get home. I'm just going to completely surrender to God. And he did not even close his eyes. And on his bicycle, he just listened to the feeling. He tuned into the feeling of the heart so much that just by that feeling, he avoided every single pothole, which was completely everywhere, and he made it home unscathed. Such is the power of feeling, that you can feel anything, you can feel everything when we really dive into it, when we really try to get to the truth through that. Talk about in a regular environment when it's not life or death, and we're just trying to feel it for better decisions, your heart will help you. Your heart will help you discern which is a better choice, which is a better motive. So Swamiji says that these motives, these higher motives, the way to do good, you start loving doing good because your heart loves it. It feels good in your heart. And then right away, the whole organism responds as well, because the body feels good when we act with love. The body feels healthy. The body feels there's no need for worry anymore, because every single action that we do that comes from the intention of calmness, the intention to do good, it relaxes the body. It calms the body. It's very good for our health as well. So Swamiji says, if a man works without any selfish motives in view, does he not gain anything? Right? And this is the interesting thing. This is actually the what I often stumble upon. So I for those of you who do not know yet, in my daytime job, I'm a therapist. I do therapy. I'm a social worker therapist, and so one thing you encounter in the therapy circles is that selfishness is good. Okay, so when people in psychology who are not spiritual, who do not know religion, when they hear these things of selflessness, they don't understand it, because they're so focused on first meeting our needs that they think the word selflessness, to be unselfish, goes against it. But that's not true at all. You know, as we know from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as we know from just basic development, what psychology talks about selfishness is all right, because they're talking about the very first stage of development. So we stop hurting ourselves. We first have to stop hurting ourselves. We have to stop hurting others. We first have to just basically start to take care of ourselves. If I'm hungry, eat. Don't starve yourselves. If you need to take care of your body, do take care of your body. So as far as that goes, of course that is very necessary. Okay, and you could say that is even being selfless, because you're being selfless towards you. We're not stealing the basic care of ourselves. So that's far that goes. But then where we come in with Vedanta, with spirituality, when we say selflessness here, we're talking about something higher than that. There's something higher than just taking care of our basic needs. There's something higher than just surviving. It's good to survive, of course, don't stop that. But that will never give you lasting happiness. That will never get you out of the loop of thoughts otherwise. Psychology, the goal in therapy is what? Is to become functional. If you take a look at the DSM, the diagnostic manual where you give diagnosis, you see that the definition for each mental illness, disturbance, whatever it is whether it's impairing your functioning in the world. This is the high end of psychology. Once you're functional, technically you shouldn't go for therapy anymore, because now you've been healed. So in no way does this contradict spirituality, because spirituality is not about becoming functional. Not. It's good to become functional, of course. It's about becoming liberated. It's about discovering your true self. It's about knowing God. It's becoming free permanently, whether you're functional or not. Because functional is only when you measure it relative to society. What if society is not functional? You know, what if there are different societies, and they all do things differently? Vedanta says, discover your truth, irrespective of society, irrespective of your environment. Discover who you are. Come to recognize your soul. Know God. Know that He is real and He is always with you. And that higher love requires something which is above just taking care of our own needs. So, to Swamiji's question, if a man works without any selfish motive in view, does he not gain anything? So spirituality says, yes, he gains the highest. You gain something that is infinitely higher than just survival. You gain spiritual life. You gain meaning in life. Because what meaning can there be in life without God? Come on, all those of you who have lived more than 20 years, you know that at some point you do the same things over and over again and there is no meaning. Without God, what meaning is there? What meaning is there? Without knowing our true self, without coming to know that this is the truth, this is who I am, what are you spending all this time on? It's complete nonsense. At least this is what I have discovered. So he says, unselfishness or selflessness is more paying. It's more paying than just satisfying our basic needs. Only people have not the patience to practice it. It requires patience, right? There are so many healing methods out there. There's so many different alternative medicines that we can go to, and all are good. Everything has some truth in it, right? But as I mentioned, like, you can put a band-aid on something, and that's good. That's going to take away the pain for a little bit. It's going to give you some soothing. You can do some remedy. That's also good, okay? But if you want a long-term solution, and if you want something sustainable, a lasting peace and happiness, where we begin to take control of our own mind, I take control of how much love I have in my life. It's not dependent on outside circumstances. I'm going to survive not just this wound, but every single wound there is to come. I'm going to fortify my mind. I'm going to ooze out the love in my heart that it comes in abundant supply. It's not dependent on anything else. When I do that, then everything can happen. You bring anything. I'm strong in God. I'm strong in myself. So nothing can waver me anymore. But to attain this requires some patience. So that's why spirituality, it's a longer term practice. Not instead of therapy, not instead of alternative medicine. No, they're mutually complementary, but it's something that just takes a little bit of time to see the results in. The meditation that we do, it takes some time. It takes years before you actually start to enjoy meditation, where you get the grace from within, that you get sunk, you just get pulled deep inside. This will come, but it's going to take some time. Prayer to God, it takes time before we can carve out that inner channel through which just calling on God will instantly connect us with Him. It doesn't happen in one day, although it could, but usually it takes longer. So it requires patience. It's a steady practice. It requires discipline, right? So it is more paying from the point of view of health also. So this is what I said before. We can get relief from an anxiety, and then the body feels good. It's good for the heart, and we know this. It's good for the cholesterol, okay? But love, truth, and unselfishness are not just moral figures of speech. They are the highest ideal in life, to live in truth, to live in love. This is the highest ideal that we can aspire to, way beyond just satisfaction of needs. Something higher than just ourselves, something more than just this body, than just my mind. There's something greater than this. There's a universal love that is not just about me. And although it's good to take care of me, by connecting with that universal love, by connecting with Him, I automatically get soothed. As Bhagavan says, your mind will take care of your body, and God will take care of your mind. So if you think of God, automatically your body will also be okay. Right? So in this highest ideal of tuning into the universal love, to the impersonal love, to the universal truth and impersonal truth, just truth for truth's sake, just love for love's sake, whether it's for we or not, whether it's for that person or not. No, there's something here which connects all of us. It's not independently just for either of us. It's just the truth. This is God. God is just here. He is the universal love. He is the universal truth. He is our own mother, our own consciousness. You see? That doing our actions just for that sake, and to go back to the phrase in the beginning, doing work just for work's sake, because work is also God. Action is God, because where do you think every moment, whatever comes to us, where does it come from? You see this? When we can see it in that light, how beautiful, God, that you're bringing me into this situation. I don't know what you intend for me to learn from this or do from this, but I'm going to use this as worship. whether it's joyful situation or a difficult situation, who am I to judge you? Who am I to say that if something is difficult, it's bad? How can I know this? You know what I mean? It's only somebody can know this who knows our whole future. Only then you can say whether this was a good thing or bad thing to happen for you. But we don't know this. You see? So when we look at work that way, when we look at opportunity for love and truth that way, we grow much, much more. Much, much more. Then we join this collective, this collective truth, the collective consciousness, which is actually our real, this is our real consciousness, the collective consciousness. The separation, that is the ego, which is actually the source of all suffering. The separation from this one love and one truth was the cause of suffering. That creates the anxiety. Do you see? Actually, the taking care, the worrying about ourselves so much, it automatically gets satisfied when we realize that there is no separate self. Do you see? The anxiety of worrying, how am I gonna do? When I realize that I was never a separate I was always part of him, then automatically the worries goes away. It's like the little bucket of water that's been separated from a huge ocean and has been suffering. It didn't have its friends, it didn't have anybody to go with, or it kept bubbling in its own place. When it rejoins the ocean, then it relaxes. I'm part of this. I'm okay. This whole water is supporting me. So in the same way, he says that this highest ideal where we're all trying to get back into our one existence, in that lies a very, very high manifestation of power. We're trying to go from a lower power to a higher power. And in this high power, when we're trying to fully manifest ourselves, fully manifest our divinity, manifest our full potential from the inside, going to this one existence, rejoining God in a way, letting go of our separations, in that gives you infinite amount of power, because God is an infinite amount of power. This is your birthright. You are that infinite power. We just have to allow ourselves to rejoin that. And that's going to require overcoming fears. Because fears keep us separated. It's going to require fighting against our memories, any kind of patterns from the past which keep us stuck. Fight against, because all those things are separating us from the truth. They keep reliving in our heads, right? Also, letting go of lower desires. The lower desires that come from ego, the desires that are only trying to keep telling ourselves that I need this, I need that. And so the whole day, we are spending our energies and always only thinking about what are we going to do for ourselves. The karma yoga approach, it's such a beautiful approach. It says that all freedom comes when, if we're gonna think, we can't stop the thinking. As long as we have a mind, the mind is gonna think. It's a machine. But if we can think for others, you get relief. And this is such a sublime thing to understand, how beautiful it is in spirituality. And that's why the concept of God is so important, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense to do this. But when we change the direction of our thoughts, let me think of others. My meditation teacher said recently, if you're sitting down in meditation and meditation is not working for you, intentionally try to think of those who you helped during the day. Think of maybe how much happier they have become from that. Maybe you've given them some spirituality. Maybe you've given them a word of kindness and love. And just by thinking those thoughts, your meditation will automatically become better. Why would it happen? You see? This is proof of that. The mind comes back into the heart when we think for others. When we think for ourselves, the mind is in the lower chakras. It's in the lower things, which is just kind of the survival-based things, which is ego-based. It's separate. When we think for others, we're lifting our mind up. We're coming back to our true nature of oneness with this whole universe. And automatically the mind comes down. Because the mind is ego. The mind is ego. Now, there are different types of ego. Not all ego is bad. There is the impure ego, and then there's the pure ego. The pure ego is the one which is, it doesn't have any obstacles with our true nature. It acts, it's still, there's still separation there, because as long as we have a mind and body and we're alive, there's going to be some slight separation from God. But when the ego is pure, then it's like it becomes like a mirror. It becomes like a mirror for God. It becomes like a cleansed vehicle, and the mind is very calm and the mind is very happy. So one way to do this is to constantly think for the welfare of others, to pray may others be happy, to pray for others to have spiritual upliftment, not to hate, not to divide. Maybe stay away from politics, because that's really that's more and more division. If you want to be a spiritual person, try to think well for anybody, your enemies, your friends, everybody. Try to do good for others. Try to come back to that one existence, that there's only one, not two. And so the last paragraph here, he says that in this way, we start having more power within us. We start having more energy when we think this way. It's not all for nothing. It's not just a good moral thing to do. No, you get benefited from these thoughts. You get more inner energy. You get more inner power when we think in this way, when we act in this way. But then he says that, but when there's our selfish motives, then energy is frittered away. Because whenever we do an action, we are exerting, there's some energy that's being exerted. But if the intention is selfish, then the energy kind of comes back. It doesn't grow. So we exert energy to act, but then if it's selfish, then it dies down. It doesn't accumulate. However, you may all have noticed when you have done some kind act, some selfless act to somebody else, completely spontaneously, without wanting anything in return, you may notice that your energy grows afterwards. Yeah? You get happy. There's happiness comes. It's very blissful. And then doing it in this way, and slowly it becomes a habit to just try to do selfless things, try to do kindness for others. And the beautiful thing is, like, we're not even doing it to benefit those people. This is the difference between karma yoga and charity works. Very big difference. Very big difference. It looks the same on the outside, like, yes, I'm going out and I'm doing something, but the charity works thinks that I'm actually helping that person. The charity worker thinks that without me, that person could not have survived the day. Without me, that person, I don't know where they would end up. This is ego. Karma yoga says, thank you, sir, thank you, ma'am, for giving me the opportunity to uplift myself. So you can come into my life and I can have the fortune to do a selfless act for you. They're doing us a favor. They're helping us go closer to enlightenment. Not we for them. It's pure karma. We just happen to be in the same place. I wanted to give. He needed to receive. He deserved to receive. I deserved to give. And therefore the transaction happened. It's not personal at all from a karma perspective. But we are really the ones who are gaining. Because that spiritual growth for us is infinitely more helpful than anything we can do for them. Of course, incidentally, it also helps them, but we should not be thinking that. We should be thinking that, wow, thank you so much that I had an opportunity to do something for you. Thank you so much. And with that will come power, will come energy, will come tremendous growth and improvement in your mind, in how you feel day after day. You will see this, it will grow. The more you do this, the more powerful you will become. So he says that when selfishness is restrained, when selfish thoughts are restrained, when worries about ourselves are restrained, then there is a development of power. This self-control, it tends to produce a mighty will over time. It develops a mighty will, strong will, because we are righteous in a way. Not like the religious righteous, but like the spiritual righteousness. Our heart is righteous. Truth, we're speaking the truth more. We can see clearly, and then we react more spontaneously because we know the situation. Power comes to us. God works through you then. because now you're able to manifest his higher intention, because God is the God for all. So when we have cleansed our direction of our thoughts in this way, his power starts to come through you. And you will see, when you act in this way, all of a sudden, spontaneously, you just react in such a way. You react to injustice. You react with love. And it's so beautiful. This power, it's so spontaneous, comes through, because the power of love is the highest. The power of truth is the strongest. And more it starts coming through you. So he says that this self-control, the control of the lower self, let's just say, is going to produce a mighty will, a character which makes a Christ, and a character which makes a Buddha. It's this type of attitude that's going to produce such a character, because this is where we're headed in spirituality. We have a very high ideal. We're not just going to become functional according to the DSM. We're going to become a Buddha. We want to become a Christ. That's why they have come to the earth, because they're showing the example of how to live. Not just to worship them as somebody higher. Yes, that's a start. But we want to emulate them. We want to become like them. This is highest. So he says that foolish men do not know the secret of working. Foolish men do not know the secret of action. I'll just conclude with this. Just share with you a story from my therapy practice. For a long time, I've been working with this young man. He's in his early 20s, and he finished school. He graduated his bachelor degrees, but he could not mobilize himself to do anything afterwards. He's just sitting at home playing video games all day. Many of you maybe have grandsons who are like that. It's just terrible. And so we were meeting for a year, for 2 years, and every attempt that I had to cajole him to apply for a job, go here, it was met with a lot of resistance, because he grew up where in his family he was always yelled at and forced to do everything, so he did not want to do anything anymore. And his resistance was just to retreat from the whole world and just sit and play video games. So I was literally walking into the section. I was walking with my father, and I was telling him about this. It's like, I don't know what to do with this kid anymore. He doesn't want to do anything, and he's depressed. And so my dad energized me. We spoke about it. I felt, that I'm just gonna tell him that, well, I don't know, what's the point for you going to therapy if you don't want to do anything? Maybe you want a new therapist. I don't know. Anyways, the way the universe has it, usually when you have a certain expectation, you get shown that it's already been made, or something the opposite happens. So I come into the session, and he comes in totally changed, even before I said a word. He's of Muslim faith, so they just had Ramadan, right? And from a spiritual teacher, from an imam, he heard that Ramadan, it changes your whole schedule around. You don't eat at the right times, you don't sleep at the right times, you only eat morning and evening. So the whole schedule gets changed, and it's actually an example. It's a teaching to make a change in your life. The 1 month of Ramadan, it's trying to show you what your next 11 months can be like if you institute some kind of change, some kind of break in your pattern. So with that, he was so motivated that he started applying for jobs again. He started getting into new activities. He put the video games a little bit aside. He got a Rubik's Cube, and he was enjoying that. And we spoke about it. And then, but then there was something still missing. And this is where the karma yoga comes in. He knew he wanted a change. He did start to apply for jobs, but there was still the old him on the inside where he had resistance. When he didn't want to do it, he didn't want to apply for jobs. He would hate doing it, and he would try to do all of it at once, and then he would feel disgusted and not do anything for the next 5 days. So this is where karma yoga comes in. I told him, do you remember ever enjoying work? Do you remember examples where you actually enjoyed action? And he started talking about when he does, for example, the Rubik's Cube, or when he did homework that he really loved. He would just get into the zone, into this concentration where the world would disappear, and it would just be him and this task. And he would love doing it. He would be so concentrated. So, bingo, I found a way in. And we started talking about it, exploring what that is. And the more we talked about that zone that you get into, where you just do work for work's sake, when he was just doing the homework, just for the sake of the homework, he just enjoyed it. He fully absorbed and concentrated with nothing else, nowhere to get to afterwards. He's not doing it to get a grade, but he's just fully immersed in it. And when he started talking about it, he started to get power. He straightened up. He felt energy. He started talking about having self-respect. And then we said, can you apply this to your job search? I don't want you to force yourself. So this is the psychology part. Lower needs. Don't hurt yourself. Don't do something just because you have to. Okay? Try to approach it from that place of enjoyment, of love. If you lose it, then stop the work. Go do something else. Don't hurt yourself. Then re-get that concentration, and only from that mental state of mind, then act in it. And before you know it, you're going to enjoy applying for work. I want you to do this, I told him, with every single thing that you do. And he changed his mind. He got inspired. He loved it. He found a way in to do something that he has to, but do it from this place of karma yoga, from a place of love. So we'll see what the next session will bring, but that was very revolutionary in the 2 years of work together that you can apply to anything. So thank you all for listening. Let's just sit quietly in meditation for 30 seconds, and then if you guys have any feelings, thoughts, your own experiences you want to share, it'd be really lovely to hear.